Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Karishma Connect. On this episode, I'm speaking to Pragya Chopra, somebody who's launched this really unique concept, especially in the field of marketing, which is called CMO as a service, fractional CMO, fractional Chief Marketing Officer. Now, Pragya is one, and she's all set to launch her agency called On Offline Marketing Agency in the next couple of months. And she tells me more about why she decided to make this her master product and how she's helping so many founders take off the worries about marketing their product or service and focus on what they do best. How did she come up with it? How she navigated her journey in digital marketing, and then during the pandemic realized that she wanted to do something more purposeful. And now in her late 20s, she is all set to drive change in an industry she's so passionate about. She's expanded to Delhi recently, and she tells me more about her vision for this as a service, why she thinks there is a future in it, and what budding creatives and digital marketers need to keep in mind when entering the industry. Go check out the episode. There's a whole lot to learn in there. And until the next one, stay tuned. This is Karishma, and I'll be back yet again. Tada. Thank you so much, Pragya, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. It's a pleasure to have you. As I hear it's your first, it's yet again special for me to host somebody's first podcast. I'm so happy to have met you. Really excited to know more about the concept. And yeah, hope you're happy too.
I am very happy to be here. Like I said, I'm venturing out into a space that is uncomfortable and new for me, but I'm wanting this to be my new comfort zone. So yeah, I'm so happy that I have somebody who's warm and who's approachable on the other side, and you're making this much easier than I had anticipated. So thank you.
Thank you. Means a lot. And don't fret at all. It's always a conversation on Karishma Connect, and we like keeping it comfortable with a K and connecting with some amazing people like yourself. Looking forward to it. The first question I ask Pragya on this podcast is tell me your journey so far, because I really don't think anybody else could say it better than you do. So dive right in.
So this started from COVID, and I, like many others, found myself unemployed, and I found myself full of potential, but nothing to do with that potential. Where do I take that potential and go? So I was frustrated. I was in a low-paying job, and due to whatever personal, upbringing that I've had, it's been very important for me to earn my own money, and I have a specific set of skills. They were in marketing, and they were in digital marketing, social media. Let's started very small social media marketing, and at that point of time, I said, you know what, I have so much potential and nowhere to channel it out. I am just going to start, and I started making pitch decks for a lot of brands that were high ticket brands, blue chip company type brands, and I just started showing them, started making very clear before and afters of what I could do with their social media profile to what it would look like after if I took over. So I actually made the creatives, made the PDFs, wrote the content, made the creatives, and just tried to sell the before after to whoever would take that pay. Cold emails, reaching out to people that I knew, um, literally just dropping into offices, pretending like I knew people. So I've done that. That's how I started my initial, hustle hustle area. I got in. I started as a social media manager. I got my first project that required me to hire somebody in December 2022 is when I got my first, no, just a second. COVID ended, no, December 2021 is when I got my first project that allowed me to hire somebody external. And that is when I said, okay, this is, and not just me, freelancer, now this is probably becoming a team. And whatever happened in the next 6 months, I went from having one proper retainer client to having about 7 retainer clients. That
Wow.
ended the year of 2022 with about 11 retainer clients, and
Wow.
everything went through word of mouth because I started in Calcutta. And Calcutta is a very small, word of mouth sort of a city, but it has a lot of private industries that are looking for solutions that are more local. So with that, last year I expanded to Delhi. Um, and last year, I decided to kill my agency in terms of a social media agency format. And the reason being, one of my clients that we gave some amazing results for, because it's no longer everybody knows now when you're hiring somebody from social media, you're not just saying, hey, do my grid or do my feed or give me the captions or give me the strategy. You're asking them to become your creative director, to shoot content, to do your PR, to get your website running, to get your Amazon listings right. You're asking them to basically full circle take control of. At least that's what they asked me, or they asked of me. And because I feel like it's my responsibility in marketing, the reason I'm in marketing is to do good work. I'm not there just to post a grid and say not my job. I'm not going to do it, because obviously everything that I step out to do, I am learning. So if I am stepping out to do a website, and if I am learning that, it's a win for me. So for me, I'm just getting better and better at marketing. I'm not looking at it. At least I wasn't looking at it as not my job. And I'm just going to stick to social media, because I feel like I would be limiting my own knowledge or my own understanding of this field. So went and took that client, went and one of my clients, basically we drove up the revenue, we drove up the sales, we drove up the awareness significantly in 6 months. And that is when last year I could see that all that hard work, and I learned a lot. I learned quick. I didn't just sit and say, it's my time will come. Like I went actively out there, signing up for courses, signing up for whatever resource that while YouTube is such a source of information, I don't think people are using it the way that they could be using it, because you learn so much just by like committing yourself to about 2 hours every day, just YouTube videos, especially in an area that you're weak at. Um, Last year, a client of mine said, "Hey, we want you to be the CMO of our company." And that is when I realized, first of all, I'm still in my late 20s. And then to become an authorized CMO, it was it was a super flattering moment. And also it was like a wake up call that, okay, if you want to be a, this is why, I always used to butt heads with teams marketing managers. I understood that this is exactly the role that I want to pursue, and exactly the format that I want to do my work in. Because I want to control every single aspect of any client's marketing, because I am not only obsessed with scaling their business, but also I have that knowledge, and I'm learning with that knowledge that expands their marketing on all horizons, not just on your LinkedIn, not just on your Instagram. Your Instagram is nothing if your website is not loading fast. So no matter how many ads you spend, if your website is poorly loading, the people are going to bounce off. So it's about getting all the parallels right, and there are multiple parallels. Your packaging, your what are you sending on your, who is your shipping partner, how many late shipments do you have, how many returns do you. Not a lot of people venture out into that space, because they say it's not my job as a third party vendor. I went out of my way to venture, especially with good quality clients. I went out of my way, especially the one I'm talking about who offered with the CMO role. I went out of my way to ensure that every single client consumer facing department is finessed. And that just made sense to me that yes, I want to work in a CMO capacity. But I did not take up that role full time. I told them I'm going to be here for a 180-day or a 90-day period, and I will give you specific outcomes from my duration. And on achieving those outcomes, you pay my fee. So you don't have to pay me like a retainer vendor. You will pay me only if I achieve those outcomes for you in a CMO capacity. Because the last thing I want to do for a client is they're already paying 10 retainer agencies. So I don't want them to pay me as a retainer. I want them to pay me based on performance. So if I am performing well, if your sales have gone up 20%, if your XYZ has happened, this, that, 10 other metrics that I can give them parameters for, upon achieving those parameters, you can then pay my fee, because then you are satisfied, I am satisfied, and it allows us to be incentivized for the same outcome in this duration of our agreement. Instead of you and I both getting frustrated, I am thinking I'm doing way beyond my scope, and you are thinking, oh, it's another retainer agency, they are continuously taking money from me, but I'm not seeing visible results. So this becomes like a win-win, sort of like an amalgamation between a client and like a third party, who then becomes a part of your core team, right? I mean, if my entire payment is based on how well that the company is doing, which founder or which business owner is not happy with that sort of an agreement, because they want to win, and then they're happy, taking whoever's along for the journey that helps them win. So that has been the way that CMO as a service kind of came into being. Killed all my contracts in the social media capacity in December 2023, and it's been the last 3 months, and we're launching on April 15th. But it's been the last 3 months I have been like fine tuning every last detail that I can see in a CMO as a service capacity, and understanding now what can I offer that's different. That's something that makes a founder think this is a bit too good to be true, but it is actually true. You are rewarded that well though also, then once it also depends, it's entirely based on skills, entirely based on how well you can do what you do, or what you claim that you do. So there's no shortcut, there's no hiding behind grid, hiding behind aesthetics. hiding behind graphic design. It's now about the big picture of driving up what has to be done in a specific time period. And once it's done, everybody's happy. Literally everybody's happy. And
Yeah, so
that's
true.
been huge shift, and it's new. I have to introduce it to the market, but so far I don't think I will face too much resistance upon giving this offer, because I believe that this is something that right now the client is looking for. Because agencies are multiple. They just want somebody to take control of directing the agency and telling them कि ये करना है और इतने टाइम में करना है, और अगर आप नहीं करते हो आपकी पेमेंट भी नहीं आएगी, मेरी पेमेंट भी नहीं आएगी.
Mm.
Please everybody put your intents towards of efforts towards achieving these specific outcomes, which right now is a gap. Agencies are there, just the client um, is CEO, CFO, CTO, CMO. The client is basically playing multiple roles,
Yeah,
and then they
very true.
forget that they're the founder, and
They
they forget
overlook.
I am the CEO, or they've forgotten what their skill sets are, which may be in fabric, which may be in textile, which may be in design, and suddenly they are full-time marketing director of the company. Something or the other has to give, right? Something will get sacrificed at the end. So that's when you step in, you call a CMO as a service, put us on a speed dial, and we will come in and we will kind of just take that up from you and you direct your marketing efforts, so you can then sit back and remember that you're the founder and you're not the 10 other roles that you're playing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. You mentioned being fully responsible for the result factor, and even when you started showing the before and after. Tell me about bridging that gap, because bridging that gap is what's not easy. To be able to say that this is what I'll give and to be able to then deliver that, and the anxiety and the doubts and all the ambiguity during that period. How do you deal with it? How do you confidently arrive at that point of knowing in yourself that, okay, I will be able to give this, and then pitching it?
It's a bit deep, this answer, because it's not, execution is everything. At the same time, no one can tell you how bad, like how difficult it is to execute, especially when you try and I try and maintain that I am the type of person, if I'm saying something, I'm going to do it. So I try and maintain that as much as I can, unless there is an absolute, third, like external situation which is way beyond my control. I will still try and find ways to kind of get it done. But I try and maintain that. It, I think, depends on who you are principally as a human being. Because a lot of people claim that there are so many who will say, I will get to that. And then when you sign with them, you're like, they just promised, a bunch of things and they've not delivered. So many people say that. I've
Yeah.
never been able to understand it. Because I'm like, how can you then promise so confidently and then not deliver on it? Now, it started with smaller promises. It started with grids before and after, because I knew I can, if I, I can create the designs I can do before, small and afters. Then it started with a little more, because I saw I could push that a little more. I could say that, okay, fine, your website, your product images are really bad. You can change your product images. You can change your description. That resulted in sales. So push boundaries and pushed my own limits a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, till I could see that it takes time, but it can be done. There's this one podcast that I heard, and this lady said everything is figure outable. And I said yes, because you start from somewhere, you don't know what you're doing. You are in the age of information, so not knowing what you're doing is basically choosing ignorance, right? After a certain point, especially if your livelihood depends on it, and if you decide that, okay, if I'm going to take this step, if I'm coming on, if you are interviewing me, and if you choose not to read about me, right, then that's your work ethic as a podcaster, not about you, but I'm just explaining. So similarly, if I am sitting and I'm promising my client that I'm going to get you X, Y, Z results, I better get those results, or why am I promising it to them? I can't just, because tomorrow the reputation that will follow after that. For me, I want the word of mouth to be positive. Or I want it to be, if it has to be negative, let it be negative in the sense that they were too on it and there were gaps in our process. Let that be the negative part. We want someone who's more relaxed, who doesn't, who's not that at it. Because the way that we have gone about things, it has been like structured, scheduled, knowing checklist, this, that, X, Y, Z has to happen. And the only time I will promise something to a client is when I know, or I have history, or I have enough support and system set up in order to be able to deliver on it. Otherwise, I will not put that in promise. And even when clients come back with ridiculous demands, hey, I need this in this, stop and you tell them you will get this, but you will not get it in 30 days. You will not get it in 60 days. You might get it in 90 or 120 days. If you can keep the patience, you will get fantastic results. So don't
Mm,
look judge it week by week. Judge it at the end of the period, because
mm,
time has taught me and information has taught me. Especially when I don't know things, I will call up people who I know are proficient in it, and I will put them through the scenario that I am in, and I will take that time out, make my notes, make that research to understand. Okay, if this happens, what will happen? Similarly,
mm.
scenario B happens, what will happen? C, D, E, F, so that I know I am prepared with answers at least for any situation or circumstance that will arise. And if I don't know, then I will not promise it. I will then do it without it being a deliverable, but I will still do it because I'm still learning. Again, if I don't know how that will, where that will take me. But execution is hard. Execution is well researched. Execution is something that only comes if you are. There's a difference in between being excited and being anxious, and the only difference is the level of preparation. So if you are anxious, you are unprepared, and if you are excited, you are very prepared. So if I know which spectrum I'm on, I know why that is. And if I'm anxious, which sometimes I am, and then I will go and I will call and I will find out as much information as I can so that I can move that to excitement. So when I'm presenting the offer, it's about kicking ass while presenting the offer. Yes.
So tell me, what is that one hack that you have realized works when it comes to the pitch process, especially be it as a founder, be it as a marketing?
Before, after. There are people who will tell you not to put time into presentations. I have not reached that stage yet. I still think presentations, especially showing before afters, are a great way to show the company not only how diligent you are in what you do, how well thorough you are in what you do, but the company also whoever is, because it's not just a company. It's not like you're talking to an building on the other side. You are again
Absolutely.
talking to a person on the other side who's either going to be human resources or who's going to be one of the C-suite executives. What they like to see is an individual either who's very very credible, or if someone, because now the entire market is saturated with younger people, and it has happened to me where I'm sitting opposite CMOs, CEOs who are gray haired, and then I come in as a 20 something, with my presentation trying to show them. So I've noticed that it can go two ways. One, either you have to be very credible, and credibility according to some maybe age, or second, credibility in terms of knowledge and in terms of what you're presenting, or what you are in fact educating them about, which they might not have the know-how, because digital space is very dynamic, and younger people generally tend to have more information about the digital space, and now right now everything is digital. So if you can't be credible by age, you'd rather be credible by information and by the amount of time that you've taken to make a presentation for them, which is not a random PDF document, which is a well thought out presentation that has taken time, clearly taken time, well informed, well researched, and it has a before after. Whatever you're doing, just add a before after, because that's the hook. That's the way that they see that, okay, this can be the end result of what I will get when I sign up with them. You're
Yeah.
showing them the outcome. So that has been great for me. Always, like, there have been people who have said, we're not going to make a PDF until you sign with us. We're not going to do this by. I haven't reached that stage yet. I'll still put in my hours into making that PDF, and it works for me, and it has been great for me so far. So
Tell me, how can budding creatives build on their strategy skills according to you?
you can get more discipline. Budding creatives, generally creative people tend to have I think creatives tend to think of discipline as something that doesn't suit their identity because they are creative. I have noticed that. So I believe when you're in the creative field, if you choose to make a career out of it, I think just being disciplined is something that might go a long way, understanding what has to be prioritized. Even if you feel like it, even if you don't feel like it, if you have discipline and if you have a routine, you still have to put in the work. And once it's done, what you feel after really takes away. But procrastination is the biggest killer of creators, and that is something that I still struggle with. I mean, when I know I can do it now, I will still delay it, but then not too much anymore. I will delay it maybe by 15, 20 minutes. So I've become more disciplined over time because work has demanded me to become more disciplined.
Tell me something about the CMO as a service, fractional CMO concept. You've touched upon it, but I want you to explain to me how it works. Point number one. And point number two, when you enter something where you haven't necessarily been part of the day-to-day work process, and suddenly you enter as the fractional CMO, how do you bridge the gap? What kind of work you do before that to kind of make that work for the company?
Do they have an in-house team? I have a list of questions that I ask them. First is, do they have an in-house team? If they don't have an in-house team, they need an in-house team because you need at least two members who are sitting with you, who are part of your team, who's not outsourced to a third-party agency, who are with you. And if you have an in-house team, then it's my responsibility to make sure that I warm up to them and understand how they work rather than reinforce how I work because obviously this has been set in the system for a very long time. Second, I also look at sales process of the team, of the client. So if sales process is different, service-based industry, it's the call sales process, but e-commerce based industry, it's everything that goes in from website, checkout, email sequencing, abandoned carts, how fast the product delivered, how many returns and defects. So the sales process differs. Service-based industry and e-commerce based industry, don't know they are called sales processes, but they are different. One is the very traditional sales process, which is your sales front, the people who are calling, and the second is basically all automated, but it's still important because you need to continuously, be in touch with your consumers. Check out the sales process, check out if they have an in-house team or build the in-house team for them. See how many user testimonials they have in anything, service or product. I just want to know what are the user testimonials, because that is a huge tool of not just marketing but also credibility of how many consumers have purchased. These are my primary three. And then I will set up certain systems like all the gaps that come in. I mean, it's a very detailed checklist. All the gaps that come in. So, for example, what is there? What is, how open are they to hire in house? How many members can they hire in house? How much they spend on ads? That's very important for me also because that is one of the main reasons I'm here. Like, I will not take on a client who's not spending X sum on ads. The reason being that why are they hiring a CMO then? Then you are okay. You are not in that space right now where you can hire a CMO or a team because you need to have some level of expenditure that is also bringing in revenue or some level of investment that is also bringing in revenue for you to be in the position to get a CMO on board. There are times where I just want to tell the client that right now is not the time to get a CMO. Right now, I can help you fix these few brackets, and once you are earning that much revenue, then we get on. And then there are some clients that I really believe in. Like there's a perfume company here who's doing very poorly in sales, but I know the potential that this company has. And I want to join forces with them. That's when I come on like a revenue share model, and then we discuss, how, because then for all my services, I'm not going to see a return, but I might see a delayed return where I'm putting in all the initial risk as well. Then I become like more like a marketing investor with that company. Um, yes, so the checklist differs from company to company, but at the same time, it foundationally is the same. In-house team, ad expenses per month, and what is the sales process? Basically, these are my three primary questions. Yeah.
And what, according to you, is the future of digital? What do you think? Where do you think the industry is headed?
I think social media agencies will be dead in the next 5 years. The reason being, clients now want in-house, or clients will start hiring videographers mainly because everything is re-optimized. So it's either going to be one person who's managing the content and one person who's doing videography. That I see videography, photography. That I see being the future of digital. I don't think social media agencies will exist particularly. I think if clients need graphic design, they will just find a graphic designer and have them graphic like design. I don't think that agency of just social media will work. I think the future is entirely in performance and ads. I think it is entirely headed there. And it's a very different case study. I mean, yes, day before yesterday, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine who is spending 2 lakh on ads, but the social media budget is 15,000. Right? So I'm just looking at the discrepancy between the two. And I'm seeing that, okay, I can see the decline already. Like it's not because I believe since COVID, prior to COVID, it was a luxury service item or a premium service item. Post COVID, it's a basic need. So it's now like water, and that's what I compared it to the other day. This is like water. If you're buying, will you buy water for 2,000 rupees or will you buy water for 20? Because I was initially selling my services for 2,000. Just hypothetically speaking, not actual MRP. I was on the premium side of services, but
Hmm.
now the market is adjusting itself to see that hey, this is not a premium service anymore. This is now a basic, you know, basic service. It's a need. It's a primary service. So it's something that the market is adjusting the price. Nobody is wrong. I in fact will suggest a client tomorrow, even if it is my own mother who's doing social media services to get somebody in house to do it, because they will come more cheaper and get a videographer on board. Because I think that is literally the going to be the way forward for content or for social media management. And I think most of the money now is going to go and be in performance ads and everything to do with optimizing for e-commerce. That's
Yeah.
where I see the industry headed in, and that's what I'm putting my money on. I also see a little bit of scope in PR and media, especially with everyone wanting to feel important now because of Instagram verification. Just looking at the sentiments all around, I think there's a huge market for entrepreneurs and PR media channels to kind of join forces and say, we will make you credible in the public perception and charge a premium for it.
And last question to you is Pragya. You're all set to launch this. What are you most looking forward to? How can people engage? And what should they keep in mind when they reach out?
What am I most looking forward to? I'm most looking forward to questions. How is this different from any other agency? Because I can't wait to answer the pay per performance model. I can't wait to answer that we don't take a retainer fee. I can't wait to answer those questions because I want a little bit of what does this mean? And explain a little more that about what this service is, why it's different. I also want my target audience to be able to find me, which I know will only work if I am strategically putting content out in a manner that reaches them. Because I want my demographic, which is that a specific avatar, that founder who's wearing multiple hats and knows, and they've hired about 5-7 agencies, and now they are just full time the marketing director, and they know that they are not the best at it. This is not their primary skill. They would rather go back into being, why they started the company originally, and have all of that delegated to us. I want to be able to, find those avatars, because that is a very specific kind of avatar that I'm looking at. And I don't want to confuse myself or distract myself with other opportunities that come along the way. I want to be able to service to exactly those type of founders. I want it to be a space where I feel like others might just look at it and think that, okay, this is a huge gap in the market that we didn't see, or we were not able to kind of cut through. And apart from just me being a fractional CMO, I want to expand my team eventually. I want to be able to engage with 20-30 somethings who are coming and who have this sort of skill set, and increase my roster of fractional CMOs, because I can't be in one place multiple times. But me and a team that is more systemized and structured can be at multiple places at once. So I want people who are like-minded to be able to engage, and I want a lot of women to kind of just come out and show support, or just join forces and talk about this in a manner, because I believe very strongly that marketing directors, I don't know if stats support this, but I think marketing directors should be women. Statistically, social media managers are women most of the times,
Yeah.
and they're the ones who are performing very well. And I don't think it's that different. I think anyone who's trained for social media has an understanding of digital, and most of marketing right now is going to be digital. Everything that so I want women who have been in this space to ask questions, or engage, or come and turn, or just learn a thing or two, because tomorrow when they're referred to instead of social media manager as CMO, it's a different level of you feel like, I'm doing something worthwhile. I am doing something that is going to make some sort of a change in at least one company or one person's life, and that's that's what I want from this. Yeah.
Well, more power to you. I see a very unique concept there, something that I've learned from, and I'm surely looking forward to sharing, not just with my audience, but with also specific people in the marketing and communications industry who should listen to this, I feel, and just feel inspired and reach out, hopefully, as well. So, thank you so much, Pragya, once again. Keep doing what you
Thank
do. Really a
Thank
big
you,
support.
Karishma. You as well. Thank you for giving me the platform to talk about this. I really appreciate it. Thank you.